Well, welcome back to another Friday Eye. I'm joined once again by my co-host Kasim. Unfortunately, my colleague Rachel is out sick today, fighting a bit of a cold, as I fear I am starting to get a bit of one myself right now. We also didn't get the opportunity to share this as an event, so it'll be really interesting to see who joins us in the live. I know we probably won't have nearly as many people joining us live this week as we didn't have the opportunity to spread the news and the excitement about what we're going to be talking about this week. And we sort of figured, of course, we'll start with what's new in artificial intelligence this week and what's trending from a small business sort of perspective. But we'll also try and take a bit of time to dive into ChatGPT's new GPT features. And I'm excited to explore and play around with that. I've had a little bit of fun playing around with it, but we'll do some more playing today. But before we do, how's your week been, Kasim? I've been busy over at QB Connect, so we haven't had a big chance to catch up. And in fact, I think we just lost Kasim, who's having maybe some internet issues, always the way with these live sessions. So maybe I'll fill you in on what actually happened at QB Connect. So for those of you who aren't familiar, this is like the Super Bowl of accounting conferences for accountants, and it's full of innovation, inspiration, education, a whole bunch of amazing things. And I got a chance to go down and connect with all these amazing people from our community. And while I was there, I was basically asking every single person I know, hey, how are you using AI in your business? And it was interesting to hear that, well, a lot of people are interested and excited by artificial intelligence. We're not really seeing people dive into it transforming their business right now. And it's interesting, we shared some of the things that we're doing in our business. And I think that, to me, the vision of this show is to talk about how we are actually integrating artificial intelligence into our business and hear from future guests who will be joining us on the show. And the good news is that I did get a number of people who were interested in joining the podcast and sharing with you guys the things that they are doing with artificial intelligence. And Kasim is back up and
Hi
running.
guys, the joys of technology, yeah?
Yeah, it's all right. Well, we had the opportunity to just talk a little bit while you were gone about all the amazing things that were going on at QB Connect, all the amazing people who have volunteered to come and be on the show and share with our small but hopefully growing audience of people who are interested in artificial intelligence and how they can actually implement it in a meaningful way in their business. But maybe, Kasim, you can give me a bit of an update. You've been still checking the forums, following Twitter, and staying updated. What's the big news in artificial intelligence this week?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and this is something that I actually was following up earlier on, and it's a really interesting piece of information news I found out, is that Microsoft has recently decided to rebrand their Bing chat as Microsoft Copilot, and they're sort of trying to integrate a new generative-based AI platform into their existing services. Now, this is very interesting. It's very cool for a number of reasons, because firstly, the barrier to entry has just dropped significantly. Like before, you had to hire developers, programmers to build your own custom-based chatbot, which used generative-based AI, which can plug into your ERP, CRMs, whatever you want. But now the barrier entry is very low. You require very little coding knowledge to get started, and you can implement your chatbot, which is Microsoft Copilot. Now, this is something which, Andrew, I think you might have some interesting input on this, because I figured that I'll bring it up while we were in the podcast, is how do you figure it can...
It's a great question, Kasim. How do I
integrate with all the services?
Yeah, I'm going to need you to repeat that. You froze mid-sentence on me.
Oh, sorry about that.
How do I get it to what? Okay, when he comes back and he gets unfrozen, I'm dying to hear what that question is. But I mean, with Copilot, I guess the big thing that's interesting to me. So this is Microsoft 365 Copilot as opposed to GitHub Copilot. I'm assuming is what we're talking about. Some news here that's changed, and Kasim is, I think he's back. Let's see if he's back. Is that him? Kasim, are you back?
Yeah, I probably internet on me for some reason.
No problem. It's all right. We understand how these things go. We know that with technology comes pain points and as well as opportunities. So, I mean, we were talking about GitHub Copilot, which not GitHub Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, which is different than the GitHub Copilot, is my understanding, right? This is where it's going to embed itself within the Microsoft 365 apps like Word and Excel and all those fun things. And it says here that its integration aims to enhance creativity, productivity, and skill development within these applications. You were telling me something crazy, like the people who had rolled this out were seeing some crazy number, like 70% increase in efficiency or something like that. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So basically, Copilot, it was announced back in March, somewhere around March in 2023. Okay. And Microsoft did sort of pilot, unintended, with their enterprise customers, big companies that they have. And the number that I was reading was actually quite staggering, that about they claim that the companies been using Copilot, their productivity and efficiency has increased. Almost all of them are saying that they don't want to give up Copilot, well integrated into their systems, that they want to, they want to keep using it. And this is something that actually, Andrew, we were talking about last as well, is that we wanted to integrate chatbot with our email, with maybe Infusionsoft natively, or maybe if someone is using SAP and stuff like that. Now, this is something which is actually possible, where you don't have to, worry about getting third-party extensions and plugins to sort of try and bridge the AI chatbot with these services. They can now be integrated natively, which I think can be really interesting.
Yeah, it does sound pretty interesting. And I haven't used Copilot yet. I'm really curious to hear, as we put on the ticker below, is anyone here using Copilot and have any experience that they'd like to share, their firsthand experience? Are they seeing these type of crazy efficiencies that are being reported? And if so, what do you like about it? Because it sounds pretty exciting. Again, my question is it available here in Canada? It sounds like it should have been available since about March 16th, I think, or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to definitely have to get our hands on it and learn some more about that, and whether the efficiencies are as high as people are reporting they are.
The interesting thing, I mean, the very interesting thing that I think about it as well is that, when you have a meeting in Teams, right? It can get transcribed. It can, you can store it in your stream and blah blah blah. That's all good. But now with Copilot, all of that is integrated as well. So hypothetically, if you were recording a bunch of training videos, whether they're internal training or external training, whatever you're doing, and you're recording them in Stream or Microsoft Teams or whatever, now you don't actually have to export that to a third party training. So all of that is integrated within Copilot, and hypothetically you can record a bunch of training videos and just give Copilot to your employees and be like, hey, you want to ask a question, we have a bunch of videos, just search for it and Copilot will bring it up for you. So there's a lot of use cases. It can be really powerful, I believe.
Absolutely. I mean, you can think about how that's replacing all the things that we're trying to work on with getting our chatbots to be able to have all that, if it can all be built in natively. I guess the big question will be, again, client confidentiality, what information is being shared, and what information is being used to train the AI, which are those inevitable fears. And I'm sure if Rachel was here, she'd be having
our devil's advocate isn't here today.
We've got to play. Who's going to play the devil advocate role this week, as we both fanboy over the new tech? But I guess that's, the one hard part, and this was interesting when I was down in Connect, is when I was hearing about and asking people about how they're using AI and what are the things that are holding them back from implementing more artificial intelligence into their business. And one of the answers I got was the fear that if I go and spend all this time right now, that it's going to change and it's not going to be it's not going to make sense. So I'd rather just wait for everything to be sort of like all ironed out, figured out, and then once
Mm-hmm.
that's done, I'll jump in and I'll take advantage of the tech. But I mean, I'm obviously biased as an early adopter who's going to dive right in. I have very high bias towards action and getting involved. What are your concerns for those people who are putting off actually implementing this technology in fear or to wait for the perfect solution that is not going to have any problems?
Right. So I think that's a very good question. I see this article every day. I read about this on Twitter almost every day, where people are like, is AI here to stay? If I implement it today, if
Is
I
it a
implement it
fad?
next week, is it a fad? Exactly. That's the hot topic of discussion right now. Will this thing stay or not? And my answer is we can just look at the numbers, right? We can look at the trends. And what the numbers tell us is that I see a number of companies. I think I was looking at IBM, which is investing like something crazy over $500 million in AI startups trying to look for the next big AI thing, right? And you
Right.
have companies like Microsoft rolling out these new features every day, and ChatGPT with ever growing functionality. So one thing I would say to them, to people who are about still a bit skeptical about it, is that this generative based AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. You can just look at
Right.
the trends and look at the numbers. And as far as we're concerned with the functionality of it and how well it would work, the thing that I would say to that is with new technology, you always have to like you can't do everything right at the first time, right? You have to sort of
Right.
error important. And one thing which I constantly see pop off is that, will AI replace human beings? Will AI replace jobs and stuff? To the answer which I give to that usually is that it's not AI which will replace jobs and human beings using AI who will replace other human beings in the future, because that's what's going to
Right.
increase your efficiency. That's what's going to help you save more of your time so you can pick things that matter. So definitely it's a try process, and being an early adopter right now is going to be a key advantage in my opinion, and so
Yes, and I couldn't agree with you more. But again, we're the fanboys. Where's Rachel when you need her to say, no, this is why it's not gonna be adopting? But what else is new and exciting? I mean, I think there's, I hope that we'll see an increasing level of trust within AI and a growing adoption within the industry. But are like sort of use cases within automation sort of evolving? Is the range of applications or AI automation expanding at all? Are we seeing growth there?
yeah, so with the integration, I would say, going back to the co-option, is that before, what was happening, and this is actually a trend which I see growing a lot, and it's actually because I have some takes on it, is that generative based AI, that was the big thing that that still has its moments and it's very popular. But I think the idea getting more trendy now, and which is getting generative based AI. That's integrations, native integrations into other. For example, when we talk about Grok, which is Elon Musk's
Mm-hmm.
chatbot that he released. Now, we talked about it last week. It's not particularly good as a chatbot. I mean, yes, it has a personality, but you can like code that into ChatGPT. That's not something
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
write
That didn't
home
wow us
about. But
last week. No.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But the thing which makes Grok interesting and which is kind of turning heads is that it's natively integrated into Twitter, which I think can be really powerful because you essentially of Twitter, every figure who has tweeted anything on there, you can use Grok to get information from whatever tweet you want, from whenever you want, from whoever you want it, which is something which doesn't exist now. And Twitter, as you know, it's a big platform for political commentators, for people in the entertainment industry. It's a big, that's very
Mhm.
interesting, And similarly, when we talk about when we talk about Microsoft's new integration, that's also something which is appealing to a lot of masses because it's integrating into Word, into PowerPoint, Teams. That's something which I think is going to be the next big thing, is to integrate generative-based AI tools with apps, CRMs, ERPs, and that's growing, and I think it's going to get there pretty soon with everything that we've been hearing in the news so far.
Right. And I think that that'll be the tipping point, right? Is like when people aren't thinking
Yep.
about, is this AI? How do I implement AI? It's just the tool that they use, right? And whether that's
Exactly.
Microsoft Office or whatever it is, when all of this functionality is integrated into what they actually use on a day to day, and it's not a thought of how am I implementing AI, right? It's just how am I automating my business? How am I making my business more efficient? And I guess that's one of the dangers of calling this show Friday AI. I may end up having to do another rebrand, 6 months down the road, and go to something more classical and traditional. But I think really, to me, artificial intelligence is about automation and efficiency within our business, right? That's the fundamental reason why I'm here, and I'm trying to absorb it and dive deep on it, right? And I think that there's lots of ways that we can explore and integrate that, and with new technology coming out every week, I really strongly believe that as accountants we have an obligation to explore this new technology and not to wait until it is tried and true and tested, because as accountants' role has evolved because of automation and artificial intelligence, our job is now not just about reading numbers and preparing financial statements. It's becoming about being more of a transformational expert to assist our clients with that journey. And if we're not aware of what's going on in all this emerging technology, how are we helping ourselves and how are we helping our clients to make these transitions? But I guess that's maybe a good point to transition on to the new feature that we did want to just play around with and have a look at, which are the new GPT features of ChatGPT. So what are your thoughts about GPTs? And have you done any playing around yet yourself?
I actually
have you built a GPT yet?
So yeah, that's a good question, because I had a very hectic week last week, so I didn't get a lot of time to play around. But I'm glad we were doing this podcast where we can sort of play around with it together.
Yeah, it sort of forces us to, right? I mean, that's the purpose here, and so like I have I think all of an hour under my belt playing with GPTs,
right?
But in an hour I was able to build one, and it's incredibly powerful. And it's another thing that. To share some inspiration, my dad, I think, who's actually watching the show, and normally every Friday night, the reason I don't do Friday Night Lives now is because every Friday night I go and hang out with my dad, and we have a catch up on the week, and he shares his fatherly wisdom and advice. Yeah, and tells me what not to do, and what to do. But one of the things that I was inspired by is one of the speakers, Shane, who is down there, who did an amazing job. He did a session on AI that I went to. Of course, if there's a topic on AI, I probably want to see it. Unfortunately, I missed Blake's. Blake, I'm so sorry I missed that. I'm sure it was a great session. I'm going to have to find a recording of it. If anyone's out there who's got a recording of Blake's session on AI, please share it. But one of the things he talked about was HeyGen, which we've looked at. Obviously, we've used HeyGen for a while now, and HeyGen has the ability, for those who aren't familiar, to clone your voice and to clone your physical image. And I had a brief conversation with him afterwards. I'm like, I personally, as was a little bit hesitant to do that. I'm like, it's pretty easy for someone to impersonate me with that. Like, that scared me.
Yep.
And he gave me a little bit of courage to experiment with it, but he also gave me a really good idea. And I thought, what if I could do that and create an avatar of my dad? Right. Yeah. And I can combine a HeyGen avatar, which is my dad's voice and my dad's image, and combine that with a GPT, and keep a GPT, create a GPT, a George Wall GPT, and then be able to pull information from the GPT and run it through an action to spit it out through HeyGen as a so I could effectively end up having conversations with my dad. God forbid anything were to happen. So I've now got not 20 years or whatever I might have with my dad. I got my dad for the rest of my life, right? And so now being able to create that for people that are important to you, like your family and your father. But what about like business coaches? And of course, this brings into the question the whole idea around copyright. Like, can you copyright a tone? Like, if I ask to use Simon Sinek's voice or style, but it's different generated content, is that copyright infringement? I guess we're going to find out in the near future, right? These are the questions to figure out. But so I did some playing around and tried to see if I could create some GPTs with the hopes of, Dad, when we sit down tonight, we're going to be taking some of the stuff that he's been putting into ChatGPT and use that to build his own GPT that will be a George Wall one. Right. And what's good and what's fun and interesting is my dad's enjoyed ChatGPT. He's always liked technology. And so what I've had him do for, I don't know, probably about a month or so now, is he's having conversations with ChatGPT, but telling ChatGPT his life story and sort of building that into a conversation. So now I can go back and I can pull that conversation, I can print that to a PDF or a Word document, and I can save that as what I can do within the ChatGPT, what I can store as sort of the pre-context of who George Wall is, because that'll be the big question, is figuring out how we define that context. But on that note, why don't we let's as always, why don't we pull it up and have a look
while you pull that up
exactly what is.
Yeah, while you pull that up, I think what you're talking about, I've seen this exact same Mirror episode on Netflix.
Yeah. Or if you've ever seen the show Upload, right? The TV show Upload, which I was actually watching on the plane, right? Like there's this we now have the ability to upload effectively
exactly.
a family member. And I mean, I know some people that'll creep you out. Other people will be excited. And so I'm kind of excited by that idea of being able to take that information and create like a legacy. It's funny, like our mission statement is about creating a legacy. My dad's dream has always been about creating a legacy. And now we have an opportunity to really create a George Wall legacy that will last forever. And if we create it as a store in GPT and put it on the store in GPT, maybe there'll be hundreds or potentially thousands of George Wall fans out there who are running to get the pearls of wisdom he has been offering me my whole life. But maybe let's have a play around. And Kasim, like, again, feel free to ask me questions and go like and make suggestions on where we should dive around. So how we got here is we clicked on Explore in ChatGPT. Again, you got to have the Pro version. If you don't have the Pro version, you will need the Pro version.
It's worth it. I highly recommend it.
It's absolutely worth it. So we can create a custom. We can create a GPT from scratch. I've already gone ahead and started creating a GPT that doesn't have a title yet. We got to give him a title, and it's already configured with some instructions. So we need a name for him. I don't know what we're going to call him, but we've got the ability to set capabilities, which can be web browsing, the Dolly image creator, code interpreter, and actions. Now, the actions is, I think, where the biggest power of this is going to be able to lie. But unfortunately, from what little I've read, is the documentation on these actions is lacking at the moment. So, I think that at the moment, what you're effectively building is a chatbot that can be either publicly available.
That's what I was going to ask. That it's kind of just like a chatbot at this moment, right? Kind of like what we went through Chatbase last week.
Yeah. And Brad popped in to say hi, and I gotta pop up a message that he said my dad wanted us to he wanted to make sure he said hi to my dad, so we'll show him that. And he's also got a bit of love for Upload, which I'm a big fan of. But just wanted to say hi to Brad, and thanks for popping in to say hi to my dad and myself. Sorry for the bit of an interaction and tangent there. I got distracted by some of the chats. I am easily distracted, ADHD. But the thing is, I also didn't fill in this information. This isn't how I created this chat. I did it all
talk
through.
to us about the process. How did you start? Like,
Yeah, well, why don't we start from scratch, right?
yeah, that'd be a
So
good
let's create
idea.
a GPT. Um, so it's nice you can go to the configure screen afterwards. But what you basically get is this nice welcome screen that says, hi, I'll help you build a new GPT. You can say something like, make a creative who helps generate visuals for new products, or make a software engineer who helps format my code. What would you like to make? And before we dive into like creating this, I guess one of the things we should have a quick look at is have a better understanding of what these are already and what exists to help us guide us on what we can or should be creating with these new GPT features.
Yep.
So DALL-E, let me turn your imagination into imagery. So this is something that's going to be specifically focused on creating images, data analysis, classic ChatGPT. This is the stuff that was just what we've seen already before. And we know how before they had the release where everything was merged into one, we had these separate sort of agents, we'll call them, that we would go into. Now you've got that all built into one, but if you preferred it when it was separated, you can do that too. You've got one that can do that can quickly explore board games and card games to play with you. You've got a negotiator to help you with negotiating, creative writing coach, cosmic dream interpreters, tech support advisor, coloring book hero to take any idea and turn it into a whimsical coloring book, laundry buddy, sous chef, a sticker whiz, math mentor, hot mods, mocktail mixologist,
A lot of
Gen Z.
stuff, and this is like stuff you can
A lot of
actually
stuff,
use.
but I think that
Yeah. Uh-huh.
the point is it's about niching down, right?
Yep. Exactly.
And so from the people from our community and the accounting world certainly understand the concept of developing and creating a niche. And that's what you're kind of doing here is you're trying to create a niche expert on something or anything that you might need a coach or a personal assistant to assist you with, right? So that's why, I started with a tax expert, again, biased towards our industry and the things that we might want to be able to build, but you can build anything, right? Like, so let's say, let's ask it. I would like to create a GPT that acts
Oh, George, I don't know if you're watching this. It says wise father figure. And that's while Andrew's typing, it's really important. You wanted to like niche it down so it gets context.
Exactly. So I'm starting to provide it a little bit of information. What it's going to do is it's going to start tweaking the GPT already. Yep. And then it'll ask me some more information. It'll start gathering information. So you can see already, how should I balance work and personal life? What's the key to a successful career? Can you give me advice or leadership? How do I stay motivated? So Dad, what's your three-legged stool advice for how should you balance work and personal life? And my dad has a whole three-legged stool pitch that he goes on about that. And there's lots of George Wall sayings that we'd have to get loaded into here, right?
Yep.
So how about the name Wisdom Guide? Does that sound good to you, or do you have another name in mind? I'm going to say no. I prefer something closer to my dad's name, George Wall.
Okay, will it actually give it a human name, or is that some sort of like ethical limitation?
We'll find out. Prepare to fall with me right now. So, and look at this. It's even generating a profile picture for us.
Because that's sort of the thing that I think about as well, is that generative-based AI, so pound that they actually have limitations on it. Like there's actual
Yeah.
stuff they've prevented it from doing because of these implications.
So, what do you think? I'd say he needs a beard and glasses.
Yeah.
With that, I also got to name him Redhead. I got to make him a redhead, right? Right, Dad? So it's now using DALL-E to generate these images, which is nice.
One interesting thing which I was reading about is that before DALL-E say that this image was generated by DALL-E, like it had a watermark, which you can distinctly tell. But now as it's gotten there with free images, it has stopped adding in that watermark. So I don't know if you'd call it, I know if Rachel would be here, she'd sort of take that devil's advocate perspective. But it's kind of interesting to think about that now the images are getting better. They've stopped telling us that they're AI generated images, which depends on how you look at it. Yeah, that's sort of the move they made.
Yeah. So I was gonna go and fine tune his hair a little bit, make fine tune the picture. But again, for speed, why don't we continue just jumping through it, because it's already asking me. So now let's fine tune the context of George Wall's interaction. Let's start with his approach to giving advice. Should it be more direct and straightforward, or should he offer advice in a more gentle and suggestive manner? I can tell you my dad is not gentle and suggestive. You should be very direct.
Straight to the point, eh?
And straight to the point, but have lots of great sound bites and quotes, aka George Wall isms. And ideally, what I'd love to do is just load some of the famous quotes that my sisters and myself have heard from my dad over the years, like his three-legged stool and his various speeches that he's given us over the years. But it's now going to start modifying the tone and the way that he speaks. Again, one of the things that we could do is if I had a whole series of blogs, which unfortunately my dad wasn't a prolific writer in his day, so we don't have a lot of blog content. I would be able to go back and be like, hey, take the tone and the branding from this blog or this website, which would be pretty cool to do. But George is going to be direct.
Yeah, sorry, I had a question. So would it be fair to say that this entire process, it's like it's helping you create your own custom instructions? Because you can technically do all of this right now, but you'd have to spend the time and write your own custom instructions, right?
That's exactly it. And again, here's where I can think for myself where a GPT is going to fit in as opposed to a custom instruction is, like, for example, also one, custom instructions are limited in how much information you can put in, and actually relatively short.
Yeah.
Whereas the context window here is substantially larger, right? We can we can load in documents and stuff like that. So again, now I can load in, I can have it browse and crawl my entire website to have more context on me. I can give it all our FAQs. I can give it all our training documents, provided we think it's, nothing confidential or has the personal identifiable data in it. Disclaimer, yeah, which pretty much have to put on every episode, right? Yep. But you now can have that a lot more context in here. Number one. Number two, think about when we're switching from brands or products and we want to have a different messaging. Like for us, when we're doing stuff about FridAI, it's still targeted at small businesses as well as accountants. It is a different message and a different tone than what goes out on CPA for IT, right? And the branding and messaging that would go out there. And so you would be able to have those niched down expertise that are, here's your CPA for IT business coach, here's your FridAI business coach, and FridAI would have more information about FridAI specific business and be able to provide me tailored custom advice without me having to preload that every single time. So yeah, kind of like a custom instruction, but a custom instruction on steroids, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, I think, the big advantage that you've got here. So let's continue on and see what else it's going to ask us, what other amazing questions. So it says, perfect. George Wall will be direct and to the point, offering advice through memorable quotes and sound bites. Next, let's consider any topics or areas he should avoid or emphasize. So let's avoid politics. Politics and abortion. That's usually some safe things to avoid.
I do know George likes to talk about big picture stuff.
Yeah. Let's focus on big picture thinking. Let's make sure to focus on growth and an abundance mindset.
While that generates, we have a comment saying, Andrew, you are very brave, live testing as always. For sure.
Yeah, well, I think I'm definitely willing to fall on my face. Thanks, Marianne. I appreciate that comment. And right as she says that, I have to do a regenerate because the system's going down. But to me, this show will definitely be about falling on my face. I'm going to have things that don't work on this show. We're going to be testing and experimenting. Hopefully we'll have lots of people who come on and show us the stuff that has been sort of, wrapped up and presented nicely with a bow that actually works. And I know we've definitely got some people who are interested in coming out and sharing. And it'll be interesting. Like for those of you who watch, I'd love to hear in the comments, like, when I was down at QB Connect, I did have a number of people who said they'd be willing to come on and share, their thoughts on artificial intelligence from both a vendor side as well as from other accountants. So I'd be curious to hear what people's thoughts are on allowing a vendor to come in and present how their system uses AI. I think I'm for it as long as it's not a sales pitch, right? It's like literally come in and tell me how you guys use AI, because I think, again, a lot of it, there's some how they're using AI in the background that we don't know and understand, which might be interesting to hear. But I'd love to know from you guys whether you think that would be helpful or not.
Could be interesting because a lot of the products we use, like even basic like YouTube and Google and stuff, it's all AI in the background. Most people don't know about it, right? So it'll be interesting to see how it's actually out.
So let's continue down this journey and see what else it's got on us for today. So George will focus on big picture thinking, growth, and an abundance mindset while avoiding topics like politics, abortion, and religion. Now, how about the way he communicates? Would you like him to use formal language, or should you have him be more casual, conversational tone? I'd say a casual, conversational tone with a balance of humor, warmth, generosity, and a wealth of knowledge.
So far, so good.
So it's updating the GPT. Now, what will be interesting is when it's all done, I'm going to put it through and see if that is something my dad would say to me. George will have a casual and conversational tone, balancing humor, warmth, and generosity with his knowledge, with his wealth of knowledge. Lastly, let's think about personalization features. Should George Wall reference his own fictional experiences or stories to illustrate his points, or stick to more general advice? George is a great story.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Stories for sure.
And will often. Another George Wall-ism is always and never, or I can't, are words you use by fools. So we were never allowed to use always and never. Another George Wall-ism. isn't in the Wall dictionary. So I was told when I was a kid that we had a family dictionary, and there were certain words we were allowed to use and certain words we aren't allowed to use. Anyone who knows me knows I use lots of words I'm not supposed to use because I'm not great at following advice. But lots of George Wall-isms. George is a great storyteller and will often use stories, analogies, and I don't know, to help illustrate business and personal goals.
I love how the entire episode is about George Wall isms and his entire quotes and persona and everything. I love it. Now, okay, but when it completes the GPT, when you're gonna ask it a question, I want to hear your predictions first. Like, I want to hear your prediction on what George would say, and then we'd see if it matches up with the output.
Well, I'm gonna say I don't think it's gonna give me a good answer right now. Is my opinion. I think we're gonna have to go a bit more into configuration in order to see
there's
that.
something close enough. Yeah, I mean, we're not obviously gonna get the exact same answer.
So right now, it says George Wall is now set up as a great storyteller using stories and analogies to illustrate points. He's ready to provide advice with humor, warmth, and knowledge. If you'd like to try him out, then please go ahead, and I'm here to listen. So we've got some generic pre-planned questions, like, hey, how should I balance work and personal life? And my dad would always say it was a three-legged stool. I don't think it's going to get that, which is friends, family, and business. And let's see, at the age-old quest for balance between work and personal life, let's try to walk a tightrope while juggling flaming torches and playing the harmonica. Not easy, but definitely possible with some practice and a few George Wall-isms up your sleeve. First off, remember, life is a buffet, not a set menu. At a
that
buffet,
sounds
you pick
like
what you
something
want.
George would say. Like
That does sound like something my dad would say.
Yeah.
At a buffet, you pick up what you want, and sometimes you've got to leave the less appealing stuff on the sideline. It's the same with life. You've got to prioritize what matters most to you. Is it family time, hobbies, your wealth, your career? Sometimes you can't have the whole buffet, and that's okay. Secondly, think of your time like a jar filled with rocks, pebbles, and sand. I love this analogy. This is an analogy I often use. The big rocks are your main priorities. Family, health, significant projects. Pebbles are the smaller yet important tasks. And sand is everything else. If you start with the sand, you'll never fill the rocks in. Always start with the big rocks. And don't forget, you're a human being, not a human doing. It's crucial to take time to just be. That means rest, relaxation, and reflection. Again, that's kind of somewhat on point. Like what's my dad's another George Wall-ism? Do your best and forget the rest.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Which sort of comes in.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have. I got to get my list of George Wall-isms and preload them in here. And I think with that combination, we can start to get this to be pretty good. Lastly, remember to set boundaries. Like a gardener tending to his plants, boundaries help you nurture the important things while keeping the weeds, unnecessary tasks, and stretchers at bay. Balancing work and personal life isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It's a personal journey that requires you to be honest. I mean, I would say that's like for, less than 15, 20 minutes worth of work, I'd say that's a good start.
That's what I was going to say. Like,
based
on what we've given it, like based on our input and our prompts, it's a pretty good answer. I mean, it's kind of adhering to everything we're saying, right? Giving us a lot of these sound bites and these quotes and that tone as well. So pretty good. I'm impressed.
Yeah. And then I think what's key though is that we now have the ability to configure this, right? This is just the start, right?
Yep.
And so we can see the instructions that are created here. We can add new conversation starters. We can change those. And I think those conversation starters are so absolutely critical. We've seen that with our own chatbot, how important that those are for. The one thing is it's also, which will be interesting. Not only the conversation starter is important, but how you continue the conversation after is so critical with these. I'm going to call them chatbots or GPTs, whatever you want to refer to these as agents, GPTs, chatbots. I think how they continue the conversation will be really important because what we've seen in our chatbots on our website is that people often don't ask an in-depth enough question to get the answer that they're looking for. And how it interacts with them and queries them more to get the information out of them will determine how good the quality of the information that goes out of it will be.
Yep.
So we've got the ability to change the conversation starters. I think with a little bit more tweaking in the create stuff, we can make sure that it follows up and diving deeper on some of these questions. And then the other thing that you've got in here is the ability to upload files. So this is where we're going to be able to get that much larger context window where I can create a list of all the existing George Wall isms that are out there right now. I can get some sampling writings of my dad's blog and I can upload that. I can get the life story that he's been building and sort of creating in ChatGPT. And we can now put that into here. I can take copies of news articles and clippings from when my dad was in high school and all the milestones throughout his life and weave those in. So I think that the ability to tweak this out, like I think in one good weekend, I could have this be like 80% of George Wall. Right? Like I think we're maybe
George approves in the comments. He says, "Wow, what an incredible tool!"
Yeah. So this is George Wall approved. Specifically, what he said. Another George Wall-ism. Father knows best is my suggestion. So you can count on my dad.
Okay, so I had a question about this, Andrew. Barring the ability to embed this on your website, do you think this can essentially replace chat-based or any other chatbots which are out there?
Yeah, absolutely. And my understanding is that there will be, I think that there's going to be a way to embed this.
There's got to be.
So first of all, I can save this and I can make it only available to me. I can make it available to people with a link, or I can make it public. And I'm assuming if I can make that public, then that could then be embedded, right? I myself am not aware of how we access the store. I think from what I'm understanding, ChatGPT is not, or OpenAI is not really sure what's going on right now because they have hit tremendous success as far as engagement with the release of this new feature and functionality. And so anyone who's been on ChatGPT this last week knows why it's probably going to be delayed. And that's because the resources on the server have been taxed at all new levels in ways
very
that
laggy,
they were. Yeah, it's been very laggy. There's been outright outages. And it's basically because everyone's diving into GPTs and trying to build out these GPTs. And the engagement is far greater than they had expected. So they're going to have to solve some infrastructure issues before they're able to roll out any sort of a store. Because if you can imagine, if all these GPTs were built and released to the public and the public had access to now all these custom built GPTs, which have been niched down, it's going to be difficult to manage. The big question will also be what makes a good GPT, right? If everyone is out there building a tax accountant GPT, right? Because I guarantee you, I'm not going to be the only one to build a Canadian tax accountant GPT. So what's going to become the differentiator, right? Like, what is it going to be the knowledge base? Is it going to be the configuration? I guess time will ultimately tell.
I think we really have to sort of we have to be cognizant about the fact that the GPT which will be successful and which will be better than all of the other GPTs is the one which has the most context. So, generic GPTs like being a tax accountant or being a wellness coach or life coach, these things, yes, they're good, but the context is very broad over here, right? Being a GPT for 40-year-old, 40-year-old people who experience hip pain, and your GPT will talk about creating workouts specifically for those people. That's just the example I got off the top of my head. But that's the kind of things which will really pop off is, the things which have very tighter context and which are really niche down, as we talked earlier in the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess one of the things, I know we've only got a few more minutes left, but the big question is, I'm curious, like how easy it is to come back in here and continue to develop this. So one of the things we talked about is like how we continue that conversation.
Yep.
So what if we just simply gave it the instruction that um, before responding, can you make sure to fill all necessary information gaps by asking questions before providing
Yeah, that's a good one.
advice. And this again is like one that I think will hopefully help it to be more, what I said, engaging to start generate those questions. So right
Exactly.
now it's already updating the GPT. Um, so my GPT behavior, George Wall is now configured to ask necessary questions to fill information gaps before providing advice, ensuring the guidance is relevant and tailored to the situation. So let's say I want to grow my business. I mean, that's about as vague as you can get, right?
Yeah, let's see what it comes up with.
Growing a business. It's even got an A. How does it know it's Canadian?
We didn't tell it was Canadian. Yeah,
I
very
don't think
true.
we did. We tell it was Canadian.
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
know.
No. I mean, there you
I
go.
like it though.
Yeah.
Growing a business, eh? That's a journey as thrilling as it is challenging. Kind of like trying to climb a mountain while building a ladder as you go up. But before I can hand you the tools for that climb, let's get clear view of your base camp. So again, it's already starting to dive deeper just based off of that one
Very
simple line.
cool. Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about your business, friend. What's your industry? How long have you been in at it? And what does growing your business look like to you? Is it more customers, expanding into new markets, increasing revenue, or something like that? The more I know, the better I can tailor my advice to fit your unique trek up this mountain. I love that, right?
For sure.
So I am an accountant with a firm that is niche focused on helping service based businesses. Our mission is to help our clients organize their finances, create wealth, and transform wealth into a legacy. Growth for me is about increasing the net income, uh, which is far more important than increasing the gross income to me. And I am also looking to stay niched and not expand to new industries. See what kind of advice it gives me now.
Yeah, now it has a lot of context.
So I can see that you're not just in the bean counting business, but helping others grow their bean stalks. I love that. That's a great quote. Another
For
George
sure.
Wallism. And mighty specific bean stalks at that. Focusing on service-based businesses where it's most likely to stay niche. So fine-tune your services. Since you're already niche, go deeper. It's like digging for treasure, leverage technology. That's definitely right up my alley. Build strategic partnerships. Even if the most skilled sailor needs a crew, look for complementary businesses. And again, using lots of analogies, right? Which is on par with my dad. Strengthen client relationships. That's, something I think he'd be on both. Increase visibility through thought leadership. Yeah, that's all my dad's thing. Optimize pricing strategy. I'm not sure if that's a George Wall
I mean,
area of
most of the stuff,
focus.
even if it's not, it's good advice. I mean, if you just randomly, you can't really get this advice if you randomly go to the internet and type you want to grow your business, because it doesn't have any context, right? And most of the stuff is pretty good. You can just start using it. So yeah.
Yeah, so I would say it's good, but I'd say it's generic. Like I don't think this at this point I wouldn't consider this a GPT I would release to the public, because I don't think, as you said, it doesn't have enough context yet to really start providing more value, right? Because leveraging technology, building strategic partnerships, it's not bad. It's just like rudimentary, right?
And
It,
it
it's
goes
it's the
back to
basic.
what, yeah, exactly. Goes back to what we were saying before, right? Is the GPTs which are going to be successful are the ones which are hyper focused and niche down. At least that's what I predicted. Could be different. I could be totally wrong,
Yeah,
and people could, come back to roast me. But yeah, that's sort of like what I think, and that's what its key strength. That's what its key strength is going to be, is to really hyper focus on certain topics.
yeah. I think that's the power of these GPTs is them niching down, and whether that's niching down to become an expert of helping you in your business, or something bigger and more general to help your clients or to
Yep.
help multiple other businesses. But I sort of envision a world, and I don't know really what if it'll work this way, is that we're going to create these virtual agents, and we're going to have them conversing with each other. Like one of my favorite things that I saw someone do, which was just take two ChatGPT engines on two different phones and have them have a conversation together.
Right.
But I'm like that's the future of these agents and these GPTs, right? And so like building a team, just like you would build a team in a professional organization, where you're going to have a CEO, a CFO, a CMO,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know what I mean, and now a CTO, and they're all going to work together, but they're now going to be agents or GPTs or whatever you want to call these, and they're going to be able to have conversations about your business to help grow your business, and it's going to give us this ability to catapult and grow at scale and in ways we never had anticipated before. Because the reality is, most small businesses in the past, it was the owner wearing all those hats, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
with a limited depth and breadth of knowledge on those areas. So now they've just really upskilled their level. And so I think that the power that this will bring to small business owners is immense. And personally, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, definitely ties back to what we've been talking about. Is combine the power of all of these AI tools. And if you combine different GPTs within ChatGPT with other AI tools, like, other automation tools, maybe like Zapier or something, which, by the way, shout out, our next podcast session is going to be about Zapier next week with we have coming on Jim Harris. Definitely tune in for that, guys, because Zapier, Andrew will talk more about it, but it's something which is mind blowing, automates everything. It can really, we use it at our company, and it can really significantly boost your efficiency. So definitely tune in for that. I'm going to plug our next podcast session right at the end over here.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one with Jim. That should be absolutely amazing. And again, we'll do a little bit better job of getting that information out earlier than the day of. So we'll probably be releasing that right after and getting everything ready and queued up,
Yeah.
so that you can come and register for that show. But I guess that pretty much we're at about time here. And like I said, we've got other people who are willing to come in and join on the show.
Yep.
If you're interested in joining the show, I encourage you to reach out and DM me. I've got a calendar link that I can provide so that you can book a time that works for you, because we are already starting to filled up time slots. And we do this live, which means that you will have to be with us live here on Friday. So reach out, let me know what Fridays you're available and what you'd like to share with the community. We'd love to have you share your pearls of wisdom. But other than that, we'll be back next week with another great episode, and with a new guest host who I've worked with for years. So I'm looking forward to that. But for now, we'll say goodbye to everybody,
Thanks,
and have a
guys.
great Friday and a happy weekend.